Today is Sunday, September 20th, 2020. It's about 10 after 1. 64 degrees. That's what my phone tells me. It's quite a nice day overall. A little hazy. Some haze out that way towards the ocean. Kind of like just sort of a slight tinge to the sky. So it's been trying to think of when the last time I was out here with the bees. It's been at least 3 weeks. Pretty sure it's been at least 3 weeks, maybe 4, but I can't remember when the last inspection was. It's been a while. After the last inspection, we had a super hot weekend. I mean, it was really hot. It was like in the mid 80s, which maybe to some folks does not sound too impressive, but for us, it's extremely hot. And I didn't really want to come outside in the heat, and I also had homework to do, so I kind of rationalized, well, the bees can wait. They can wait one more week. Maybe that was the week after, like, because I seem to remember saying I was going to check back in 2 weeks on how the hive with the queen cell was doing, but at any rate, whatever. It was really hot the weekend I was expecting to do my last inspection, so I didn't. The weekend after that was the bad fire and smoke week, so it was really hot, and then that week there were some very terrible fires that many of them are actually still ongoing. They're still burning. The August complex, for example, that draped the entire area in smoke. So we had like just thick overcast smoke for a good chunk of the week, and then the smoke descended closer to the ground level and just made it miserable. So no inspection that week. And then last week, I just didn't do it for some reason. I don't remember why. There was a reason why, but I think it sort of boiled down to I don't really feel like it. So here we are, 2 days before the official change to fall. The first day of fall is on Tuesday. Today's Sunday. And it has definitely changed. The weather has changed significantly since the last inspection. It definitely feels more like fall. The days are shorter. It's dark by 7:45, give or take. It's cooler in the mornings. The sunrise is getting a little bit later, so it's getting harder to get up in the morning because it's getting dark. So it's starting to get dark. So there's definitely been a change in the weather. It feels more like fall. The leaves are changing. Some are starting to fall already. Haven't seen any of the geese. We have Alaskan geese that come here in the fall, and they spend their winters here and then go back to Alaska in the summertime. And I heard some about a month ago, but I didn't actually see any. And I haven't really heard, in fact, I haven't heard any or seen any since then. So it's a little unusual. I think usually I see the first ones in late August or so, and now it's getting to be late September and I still haven't seen any. So it's a little unusual. I wonder if maybe the fires impacted them along the west coast, or maybe it's the weather or something. I don't know. The climate's changing, so it's kind of hard to determine what's happening, how systems of nature are reacting to the climate change that we are seeing. But at any rate, it's been a while since I've been in the bees. That's sort of the gist of it, and this is sort of a recap of what the weather has been like for the past month or so, 3-4 weeks, however long it's been. So things have changed. The bees out here are doing their thing. I've been seeing them still bringing in pollen. All 3 of these hives here still bringing in pollen, and I'm not going to bother with these. I'm not going to get into them. Last time I got into them, they had eggs. I saw queens. Everything was fine. I don't feed and I don't treat, so there's no reason to get into these hives right now. So I'm just going to leave them alone. It's too late to make a queen. I'm not going to order any queens. They're either going to make it or they won't. That's sort of how treatment free works. Either they'll make it or they won't. So these bees are set up. This is what they're going to look like for the winter. I do want to either replace or somehow augment this lid that I have, this main lid on the long Langstroth. Oh, here's another thing we've been dealing with, is these buggers, these yellow jackets. They come around every, this one's got something too. He's got like a bee head or something that he's munching on. Oh, he's dropped. Coming up there, he's flying. Anyway, oh, he's like right in front of me. I wonder if he's showing up. I can't see on my camera, so I don't know. Whew. He's protective, or she. I don't know. It is protective of its meal. Oh, there it is. So it's got a bee head. But anyway, these buggers are a real menace this time of year. Late summer, early fall is when they are active. They come around, they invade the hives. And most of my hives have these small entrances. These are 1-inch holes. So they've all got them. The hives over there also have small entrances, and I run small entrances all year long. Some people will open up their entrances, but I don't. The weather here overall is cool enough to not really need to do that. I do try to provide good ventilation. So for example, the end here is open. This mesh is open so they can move the air from there, and they can exhaust it there. And there are also small holes in the back of the long hive too, so if they need to push air out or whatever, they can do that, or they can seal it up, whatever. They'll manage it. They're great at airflow. I lost my train of thought. Oh, right. It's going to augment the lid here because it's not water. It's not a good water barrier at all. And it will start to rain, and it's going to rain for months. So I need to make sure that there's no water, that no water is going to get into this hive. So I have to figure something out. I may just be lazy and put another piece of larger plywood over it and call it a day, but I'm really trying not to be lazy. But man, school is tough, and I'd have to go get a new sheet of plywood and make a new cover that hangs down more like the telescoping covers, and trying to talk myself into it. But I better make a decision quick, because like I said, the weather's changed and it is fall now. Anyway, moving on. That was 8 minutes of recap. Please excuse all the chicken poop in our yard. We've not been keeping up on the sweeping. Now, let's look at these bees. I have no idea what's happening in this nuke. I don't remember what the status was, and if I remember right, I couldn't remember what the status was last time I did the inspection, and I didn't review the footage, of course, so I have no clue what's going on in there. This one had a queen cell that was capped and ready to hatch, and I have seen bees bringing pollen into this hive, and this one had a queen. Last I checked, I still actually see drones. Most of the other hives have kicked their drones out. This hive had a queen, and this hive is also getting to be a little bit mean. So kind of keeping an eye on this one. But anyway, now just gonna put that up there. Had some frames on there with a little bit of honey and just empty comb or whatever, and I just put it up there to let everybody get in there and rob it out. Some people would say it's not a good idea to do that. Maybe it isn't, but I've done it every year for the past, 4 years, and I've never had problems. So it's far enough away from the other hives that it shouldn't trigger robbing, and everybody else. So there's those ones there, and then those ones way over there. So this, I just leave it there, and I also put my swarm traps up there. So I think leaving that like that is fine. But now I'm just gonna grab my gloves, and I didn't do smoke, didn't do my smoker because I'm lazy. Hope that'll be fine. Even though it's 64 degrees, it's a cooler 64 degrees in late September than 64 degrees in July. Just gonna set this up like so. Oops. I hear a very strange sound coming out of here. I'm going to try to capture it. So that's something I've never heard before. Maybe other people have. It sounds like bees flapping their wings. But I don't know what they're up to in there. That's interesting. I'll have to ask around, see if maybe somebody has an idea of what's going on there. That is new to me. I've been keeping bees for 6 years now. It's my 6th year. Moving into 7 next year. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. When we moved here 7 years ago next month. It was October of 2013 that we moved here. Not to this house, but to the area. We moved into this house in January of 2015. Oh, there's a lot of bees in here. That's good. There's also a big old fat spider. Decided to make its home in here. And some people will shoo away those kinds of critters. I don't really mind them. I'm not causing any trouble. I don't care. I can see that the bees have built comb on the underside of the inner cover here. A little bit troublesome, a little concerning, actually. So it makes me worried about there's space in here. I don't think they're gonna swarm this late. I mean, basically at 12 hours of daylight now. Yeah, they've built quite a bit of burr comb on here. It actually looks alright. So So I think I'm not gonna really bother with it. It's not actively hurting anything. What I care about is, are there eggs? That's all I really want to look for in here. That's all I care to see. If there are eggs, I'm just going to close them up, leave them alone, and that'll be it. If there aren't any eggs, I'm going to combine this hive with the other one so that they have a better chance of making it through the winter, and then I can just requeen them or something in the spring. Ooh. It detected my carbon dioxide, so they came and got me. Or my breath. I can't remember if it's actually just the breath, like the wind, or the carbon dioxide. I thought it was the carbon dioxide, but now I'm not so sure. Now I'm doubting myself. I seem to remember mentioning last inspection that I was reading Thomas Seeley's book, Honeybee Democracy, and as of today, I am still reading through it. I have not completed it yet. I've got... Well, this bee... So here's something I'm going to point out. I'm not going to move the camera, but there's a bee right here where my hive tool is. That's got... Oh no, I lost her. Oh no, there she is. That's got bright red, what, right where she would carry her pollen. And it is not pollen, it is propolis. The bees will actually go out and gather the stuff and then kind of refine it and turn it into the sticky, gooey stuff that we all know and love. And these bees in here are heavy propolizers. It is very sticky in here. And they are defensive because it's late in the year, so they don't really want to be messed with. And to be honest, I don't really want to mess with them. I'm hoping that after today, I don't need to come out here and mess with them again until spring. Other than just kind of making sure that they're doing all right throughout the winter, just sort of checking on them, knocking on the hive and seeing if I can hear a buzz. Just simple stuff like that. I'm not gonna actually do anything. Some people will open up their hives on a warm day in winter. That's a personal choice. I choose not to do that because the bees are nice and sealed in their hive. They've propolized it all up the way that they need. They've got their entrances set up the way that they need. They've got everything set up the way that they need, and there's really nothing for me to do because I don't feed, I don't treat, I don't do that stuff. So I don't see a point in opening a hive just because you're curious to see what's going on. Should be a reason, I think anyway. If you're brand spanking new and starting out, maybe you want to check in there and see what they're doing. That's fine. Just be careful. You don't want to actually accidentally do something. You know, maybe the cluster has moved to the outer frames and oops, you just rolled the queen and it's January and now you have no queen and your hive is toast. So, you know, it can happen. But I would encourage patience. They'll make it through the winter or they won't. The survival rate of hives in the wild, feral hives, if the numbers that I've read are reliable and accurate, and I believe they are. I've read them in books and things. Roughly 40%, I think, of wild hives survive. So less than half will make it through a winter in the wild. Alright, so now I remember this hive is difficult because it is very, very tight. Oh, bees, get out of the way. And it's not made any easier by this awkward angle being on this ladder up here. I do see drones still. But they shouldn't be making any more. Any sort of drones that I see now are at the end of the line. The last vestiges of summer. Ugh, man. This hive is so sticky. I don't think this frame's going to be any easier than the other one. Pull out of here. I'll try to put a little bit of space, if I can, to sort of wiggle it a little bit. Maybe see if I can loosen it up and pull it out of here. But I mean, my hive tool is just covered in propolis. So much of it, and sticky, gooey stuff. Just fine. Just kind of annoying for me. But if it helps them, whatever. It's not really about me, is it? It's about them. I just happen to provide space for them to live. And they can give me honey now and then. Ooh, it moved. Slowly. All right. There we go. So they are packing this frame full of pollen, bee bread. There's a bunch of it on here. And then the side facing the outer wall is honey. And that's good. Whew. All right. Now, I'm just going to pull these out until I see eggs, and then if I don't see eggs, then I'm going to then just pick up the whole thing, which will be a nightmare because I'm sure it weighs 1,000,000 pounds, and stick it on top of that one. Actually, not quite as grumpy as I was expecting. I'm not complaining. But I am just starting out. And there do seem to be more. So here they are. Oh, I see cap larvae. I see eggs. Outstanding. Alright, that's it. Done. All done. No need to keep going. Oh, that makes me so happy. Alright. Now I just need to put this frame back in the way that it was, because I want the honey on the outside of the hive so they can have access to their bee bread and everything. and just slide it back in there. Carefully as I can. I don't want to smash anybody, or smash as few as possible. And then I'm just going to take my inner cover, put it back just the way it was, not scraping off any of the burr comb or any of that stuff. I'm going to shuffle everybody out of the way. Okay. And then just going to stick the lid back on. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Not going to touch them again until spring. No need. I don't have any extra honey to give them, so they're just going to have to make do with what they've got. I'm not going to feed them. Curious to see how much this hive weighs. I'm going to lift it up with the phone on it. It's pretty heavy. Now, let's see what's going on with this one, because I have no clue. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this. If there happens to be like no eggs, for example, because I don't know if this was a split or anything. I'll have to think. It depends on what we find. If it's just a bunch of bees crawling around, then man, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could put the frames into one of the other nukes that has a removable bottom, put it on top of this one or that one, but then I have a problem of like it's not going to have proper coverage. I get it. I mean, I don't really want to put a whole nother full-size box on there either, because that's just a whole bunch of empty space, and I don't want them to have to regulate that. And the space that I saw that bees most like in the wild is 40 liters, and 40 liters happens to be the size of one of these. So, but wild hives also tend to swarm more often because, again, smaller space. So I don't know. Let's first open it up and see what we find. The answer is nothing. There are a few bees in here. Looks like maybe some honey. A little bit. So it actually might just be, there's actually uncapped honey in here. But I see a bunch of drones, bee bread, uncapped honey, some capped honey. And more of the same. So the drones in here might just be refugees from some of these other hives that kicked them out. Yeah, it's nothing. It's empty. Ugh, I'm actually kind of relieved. So I don't have to worry about it. So, what I'm going to do... And none of this stuff is really worth saving, like for me to take as a tasty honey frame. It's kind of whatever honey. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this over to where that one is. I'm just going to replace it. Just going to take the whole thing, leave the lid off, and let them have at it. So that's what I'm going to do next. So, because that is not exciting at all, I'm just going to squeeze my way down here off this ladder. Oh, what a hassle. And turn off the video, because that's good enough. I don't need to go film every little thing. But yeah, that's the end. That's the end of my beekeeping season. Let's see if I can do an accurate. Oops. See if I can do an accurate recap of what happened this year. So, and this is all based on memory. I haven't. Some of this may be wrong. I'm misremembering or something. But one of the things I plan to do during my next break from school for winter is to review all of my videos of beekeeping for the year, take some notes, and then study up during the winter and try some new things next year. Really want to try to figure out grafting. But let's go ahead and start at the beginning. So at the very beginning of the year, in I think it was April, early April, was the very first inspection. I'd gone into winter 2019-2020 with I believe 4 hives, and 1 made it. The one that is now over there that I call the grumpy hive. That's the one that made it. In early April, I really waited. I waited until April. I usually do my first inspection in March, around the first day of spring, which is like March 20 something usually. I decided to wait until April because March can be kind of a up and down month. It can be sunny and nice, or it can be cold and wet and windy and just kind of miserable. And for a fledgling split, it's not really the best time to do that. However, by April, the weather has changed enough to firmly be spring. Days are warmer and longer. Rain is less. Like, we still get rain in April, and we'll still get rain in May, but it really starts to slack off in April. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Got the first split I did was a walkaway split, and that worked out just fine. I got a second hive. And then, did I split them up again? I can't remember now if I split them up again. Pretty sure I did. Pretty sure I split them again. Maybe I got multiple queen cells. No, I think I only had queen cells on one frame. This is why I need to go back and review this stuff. But anyway, made split, a walkaway split. At least one took and was good. And then we had a swarm move into the swarm trap. And now I can't remember which hive that was. It may be this one that was the swarm, but I can't remember. I can't remember. But at any rate, we had a swarm move in, and that was in... I'm trying to remember whether that was late May or early June. I think it was June. And then tried grafting in May, and I got 1 queen cell on my grafts. And I used that, and I believe I got a successful hive out of that. But I used this long Langstroth to do all that, to do all the splitting. And if I remember right, got 1, and then I think we got another one. We may have actually gotten 3 because I had to cut out cells from the grafts, because the bees didn't make queens from my grafts. They made queens from other eggs that they had. But anyway, I cut them all out, put them into these nukes here, and I think 3 took, and one of the queens flew away, so it was lost. And then split again, and then another queen flew away and was lost. So I lost 2 queens this year to mistakes of them flying away. So that sucked. But we made enough to be able to combine some of these hives. So there's the one here, the one there, the one here, which is pretty big. That's a good size hive. That's a deep and 2 mediums on there. I could probably get away with taking the top hive, or the top box for honey for ourselves, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it and then use it for food. I can distribute it among the hives next year. Whoever makes it, I can give them nice frames of honey. That was the idea. And if I have extra, then cool. That's good news. I can use it either for myself, or I can use it to kind of entice bees to build up into the honey supers, and I can get a nice big harvest of honey next year, which would be really nice. But anyway, this is a big hive. This one hopefully will be okay. The queen had a good laying pattern last time I was in there. She's young. She's a queen from this year, and should be good. I hope it's part of the 40% that make it. So let's assume now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hives going into winter, which is great. I'd wanted to get up to 5 this year, and I did it. That was a goal that I had accomplished. Ideally, would go into winter with 8 hives. So if we lost half, then we'd start out the year with 4. But we're going into winter with 5, so I'm hoping to come through with at least 2. That's the hope, is to get through the winter with at least 2 hives making it. From 2, it's way easier to split than it is with 1. It's much more difficult to go from 1 to 5 than it is to go from 2 to 5. You can go from 2 to 5 in one shot if you split properly. Versus with 1, you make 1 split and then you split the 2, and so you're already a whole cycle behind. So from 2 you can make 5 pretty quick. A really good turnout would be 3 hives to make it through winter. If I were to guess which ones would make it through winter, it'd be this one, these 2, and probably the mean one, because mean ones tend to do well. So that'd be good. Wait, did I miscount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so one of these, and then the mean one would be my guess for 3. Maybe I'll get lucky, and 4 will get through, and only lose 1. And if I'm super lucky, all 5 will make it, and then that's the ideal situation, I suppose, because then I can just split them left and right and start selling stuff, and that'd be pretty sweet. Make a bunch of nukes, sell them for $200 a piece. Yeah, not so bad. But next year, I hope I can expand a little bit. This yard is full. Five hives is like the maximum that I would want in this yard. It's the maximum I can handle in one yard. The area can't really support more than 5 in this space, I guess. There are other bees and beekeepers in Lolita. I know of at least 2, and there are probably more that I don't know of. So anyway, I don't really want to get more than 5. That's like the max. But with overflow, I want to expand to different yards. At least 1 more, preferably in Lolita, more than 2 miles away, so that these hives will not interact with them. And I might have a lead for that. I'm gonna have to follow up this winter and see if maybe I can get that set up, assuming I have enough to work with to actually do that. So that's the goal for 2021. Two main goals. First, grafting. Gotta get good at grafting. Second is expanding to an out yard. And those are the main ones, I suppose. I guess the third goal would be to get a nice honey harvest. That'd be really nice. I haven't gotten honey, I think, 2 years in a row now. Just because I've been trying to really focus on expanding and having enough to be sustainable. So yeah, I think it's been 2 years since I did a honey harvest. I think I took one frame last year. and that was it. And we still have some, like it's just comb honey that we've been slowly eating off of. But other than that, didn't take anything, left it all for the bees, and that was the right call to make. So same thing this year. Gonna leave everything to them, and if they make it, then that's awesome because they'll have plenty of resources to build up, and life will be good. So that was the year in a nutshell. One hive turned into 2 or 3. 3 then turned into 4 with a swarm. 4 then turned into a bunch of nukes, and then all those nukes were then reduced down to the 5 that we have left. At some point during the winter, I will probably just make a short video as an update to see where things stand. I'll probably do that probably around when would be a good time to do that? Maybe when I'm on my break from school, which will be late December, like around Christmas time through mid-January. That's like mid-winter. January is like midwinter, so that'd be a good time. Kind of see how things stand, how things look for the coming year, see what we have left in terms of hives and stuff, and go from there. So I don't know how many people watch these videos, but if you do, thank you. They are for me mainly, and a video record of my beekeeping and how I do it, and the mistakes that I make, and the successes that I have, and everything else that comes with it. The stings, I think I got stung. How many times did I get stung this year? I think 6. Between 4 and 6, something like that. At least 4, but I think 6. So that's pretty good. Some people get stung a lot. Part of the reason I don't get stung a lot is because I wear a full suit every time. There's my tucking my socks or my pants into my socks. The one time I didn't do that, I got stung on the ankle. And then of course I've got my full sleeves. I wear gloves every time. Veil every time. You can see my shadow. There's my veil. I don't like to put my face on camera, but there we go. There's me. Hi. Yeah. So, I'm trying to say goodbye, but I'm having a hard time just because I really love beekeeping. I've got a bee on me for the rest of my life. That's says, dang it, trying to get it to focus is gonna be hard. There we go. Wait. Wait. There we go. So there it is. Mitsubachi, honeybee. Japanese. Yeah, love beekeeping. It can be hard. It can be hot. It can be frustrating. Losing 2 queens to mistakes, that hurts. That's two queens, two more potential hives that I could have had, just gone in a flash, just like that, gone in a second. So that sucks. But it happens, and it happens sometimes. You make mistakes and learn from it and move on. As long as I don't lose 100% of the hives I have, then that's good enough. I can make it through with 1. That's enough to start back up with. And even if I never get another honey harvest again, I would still be happy being a beekeeper, because it's not really about that. It's about the bees themselves. I said that a little bit earlier. It's not about me. It's about them, making sure that they've got a safe, dry place for them to be and do their thing. They help things out. They go and they pollinate stuff, and they are an overall benefit to the surrounding area, the nature of the area. And I know that they're not native. They're technically an invasive species, because they were brought over by Europeans. And I seem to remember when I was doing the bee hunt with Dr. Seeley last August, he was saying that some of the first bees brought to California were brought by, I believe, the Spanish in the 1500s, or the Germans or something. I can't remember. It was well before the westward expansion of the United States from the east after the Revolution and all that stuff, and Manifest Destiny and everything. So this was like hundreds of years before that. Dr. Seeley was saying that there were bees in California. So European honeybees since the 1500s, which is kind of nuts. That's pretty crazy to think about. But yes, they are an invasive species, along with a bunch of other stuff. Some of this grass around here that covers the dunes, European sawgrass or whatever it is. That stuff is nasty. Really crowds out the native grasses and everything. And we've got our native bumblebees, and we've got carpenter bees, and we've got other small bees that look like flies, really shiny looking guys, and butterflies and everything else. But on the whole, the bees are an overall benefit. So, in the grand scheme of things, not so bad. So, anyway, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, not about me, it's about them. And I just happen to like doing it. And of course, you hear about the bees. The bees are in trouble. The bees are in trouble. And they are, if you're a commercial beekeeper. if you are a backyard beekeeper like me, the plight of the bees, as it's sometimes called, colony collapse disorder, and that comes up in the news every now and then. It was a big deal in like 2006, but you don't really hear about it so much anymore. I mean, it's in textbooks and things that I have, a lot of books that I have written 10-ish years ago. Colony collapse disorder was such a big deal. You don't really hear about it so much anymore. It's still out there, it still happens, but you don't really hear about it. Everything these days is all about mites. Varroa mites. What are you doing for mites? What's your treatment regimen look like? And here's this graph of the bee population and then the mite population, and see how it peaks. I mean, for this time of year, the mite population is at its peak. There is no doubt about it. That is established fact. That's just how it works. The mites will go into the bees, then to the cells. They will lay their eggs, and for every female mite that goes in there, she lays like 2 or 3 eggs or something, and then it kind of expands, and it's an exponential line. Like you look at the graph, the population graph, and they both look the same. They're just one is shifted on the other. So you get the bees like this, and then the mites go just shifted to the right. So it's peak population for mites right now. Everybody who does treat is treating at this time. People have already taken their honey harvest for the most part, and you don't really want to put your treatments on with your honey supers that you intend to eat, that humans are supposed to eat. You take them off because you don't want to contaminate them. And just that whole idea and that thought of having to do that, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do. So I don't. So I just flat out don't do it. And treatment-free beekeepers get a lot of stigma sometimes. Sometimes you hear the term mite bomb, where a hive's population is overwhelmed by mites, and sometimes the bees will abscond. They'll just take off because they are overloaded with parasites. And sometimes they will just die from diseases and whatnot, parasitic mite syndrome, deformed wing virus, and all that stuff. So they'll die, and then what will happen is other bees will then come in and rob it out, and then get in further spreading the infection of the mites, and there you go, there's your mite bomb. There's some literature about the mite bomb theory. I haven't really delved too deeply into the literature on beekeeping in general, mainly because I am diving deeply into literature for my master's program at the moment, but I am gathering a bunch of literature. I've got a ton of scientific papers, I've got a bunch of books, I've got American bee journals. Like, I've got 60 years worth of American bee journals from 1861 to the early 20s. All free. It's all available for free on Cornell's website. If you go to Cornell, cornell.edu, or just type in bees Cornell. It'll all pop up and you can read it. It's all there. It's all free. But I also have access to paid journals through my school. So I've been pulling scientific studies and stuff when I see them, and when I think about looking, I can just use my school email address and pull that stuff up. So taking advantage of that while I can. And I believe I can just keep doing that forever as an alumni. I have had access to paid journals since my undergrad as well. But anyway, I'm just kind of gathering information. I've got some of the old books. I've got books written by the Reverend Langstroth. I've got books. I'm really interested in books from like the late 1800s. So, the back half of the 19th century, especially American literature, because the Americans were really starting to kind of come into their own back then. So it's really interesting to read about all the theories and how beekeeping evolved in the United States versus places like Europe, where it's been a tradition for thousands of years. So I'm gathering all this different stuff, and then really want to dive into some real actual research into bees and beekeeping in the United States, and where things stand, and the treatment versus non-treatment thing. See what kind of studies I can find. I know of a few studies that are ongoing about treatment-free beekeeping. There's one study by, she's either doing her doctorate, like it's part of her doctorate, or she is a doctor already, and I can't remember now. But it's called the COMB study, COMB, and it's an acronym, and I can't remember what it stands for. But that's being done, and that's a 3-year study, if I remember right. One of the criticisms from people like Solomon Parker, Michael Bush, and some of these other sort of prominent treatment-free beekeepers, D. Lusby and all them, is that the studies surrounding treatment-free techniques are too short. They don't take in, and they are flawed from the beginning by using treated stock, and stock that has no defense against mites at all. So if you take 2 packages from the same distributor, put one into a hive, put the other one into a hive, don't treat the one hive, treat the one hive, and then say, okay, well, now the one that we treated is dead. Well, duh, of course it's dead. That's almost an inevitability. It's not a guarantee. Sometimes if you do nothing, it will make it through and maybe it'll be okay, but more often than not, it's just going to die for a number of reasons. For example, here's our yellow jacket friend back with a new snack. If I can get it to focus. It doesn't want to focus. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the it could be a climate thing. If you're ordering packaged bees from Georgia and taking them to do your experiment in Minnesota, then you're already kind of shot yourself in the foot, because those bees are not adapted at all to a Minnesota climate. They're adapted to a Georgia climate, and even a specific place in Georgia where the queens were bred. So, those are kind of the criticisms leveled at some of these studies. I am not a scientist. I don't really have a desire to be a scientist. I understand the scientific method. I've studied science in the classroom throughout my academic career. I took plenty of chemistry classes, physics classes, biology classes, all these sorts of classes and stuff. Like, I get it. I know how it all works. And I could probably set up a study and do it myself, but I'm just not going to do it. I just don't really have the desire to do it. I have other things that I'm more interested in doing than doing studies. So I have to rely on the studies of others. And this comb study is one that I'm particularly interested in because the woman conducting the study kind of took these criticisms into account. So it's a longer study. It's local stock of bees, and they are all sufficiently far apart where you're not going to be seeing problems with drift interaction or they're all basically self-contained, and she can then use, here's the control, here's the one that's going to be getting this thing, and then here's the one that's going to be getting this instead, and then compare the results. And it's a sufficiently high number of hives, like more than just 2 or 3. It's a pretty good amount of hives, so should be interesting to see how that turns out, because really it's a test of the efficacy of treatment-free beekeeping over a long-ish period of time. And there's plenty of anecdotal evidence that it works. Solomon Parker has been treatment-free for, close to 20 years now at this point. Michael Bush, kind of the same thing. He's been treatment-free for 2+ decades. D. Lusby, 2+ decades. There's somebody else that I'm forgetting. Kirk something, I think. So there are people out there who's like, oh yeah, and these are just prominent people I can name off the top of my head. There are plenty of other people who don't treat, who are part of Facebook groups and forums and other, even local people that I know who don't treat. The former president of our bee club doesn't treat. A friend of mine doesn't treat her bees either. And there are others, even just locally. And then, of course, people around the world who are keeping bees, like people in maybe Central America, South America, Africa, Asia. Sometimes they've got different types of bees in Asia too. They've got the giant honeybees, those real famous ones. But they've also got regular old European honeybees as well. I've got a friend in Japan who keeps European honeybees, even though there are native Japanese honeybees in Japan. they don't produce as much honey, and they're a little bit more annoying to work with than the Europeans. So, there are plenty of bees around the world, and a lot of these people are not treating either because they don't have access to it, or because it is just too expensive. Those are probably the top 2 reasons, my guess, especially in places like Africa, where they're just not gonna have access to that kind of stuff. So I think there's sufficient evidence to convincingly say that this treatment-free style of beekeeping works. It's just a matter of actually quantifying the evidence, which is what science is all about. What is the mechanism that leads to what we are seeing? That's the question. So if we are seeing bees that make it through without treatments, then the answer is why. Why is that? What mechanisms are there that enable these bees that have not been treated with whatever treatment you use, whether it's oxalic acid or those Max Mite Away quick strips, Apivar, essential oils, whatever it is, versus doing none of that and instead just keeping bees as if these mites or whatever didn't exist at all, which is kind of what I do. I just don't do anything. And I still maintain, throughout the whole year, I've been making these videos. I maintain bees. I do beekeeping. I add frames when they need them, and I will split things up when they need to be split, and I will combine when they need to be combined, and I will engage in beekeeping activities. I just don't treat, and I don't feed. Those are the main 2 differences between me and the mainstream beekeeping community, I suppose would be a good word. And that's the main difference between all of us who are treatment-free beekeepers. Some treatment-free beekeepers will feed, others don't. Some people will say, oh, it's a treatment against starvation, it's a treatment against starvation. Whatever. If you want to feed your bees, I don't see what the harm is. Like, sometimes if you make late season splits, they're not going to have time to build up to make it through the winter. You feed them to get them through the winter, and then you stop, and that's fine. Or maybe you feed them in the spring because you want them to build up fast so you can make splits. Fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Some people take a real hardline stance, like, if you put them in a box, that's a treatment. It's like, whatever. So, there are varying degrees, but the main thing that unites us all is that we don't use chemical treatments or treatments of any kind in order to um, mitigate something for the bees that the bees should be able to mitigate for themselves, whether that is varroa mites or nosema or dysentery or whatever. The only exception that is extremely important is American foul brood. If you detect American foul brood in your hives, take the equipment and burn it. Some people will say, oh, I just cut it all out and sort of cleaned it up a bit and I gave it to my hives and they were fine. Maybe that's true, but those spores are no joke. That disease is no joke, and if you find that you have American foul brood, burn your equipment. It's a courtesy to other beekeepers around you because it is extremely contagious and extremely bad disease. Otherwise, I do nothing. I just do nothing. As do the other treatment-free beekeepers. Nothing. So, anyway, that was, jeez, a half hour of my rambling. So, again, this is for myself. If you watched all this, then wow, kudos to you, and thank you for making it through all that, my rambling. And I don't know if lecturing is the right word, but probably rambling is the more appropriate word. I tend to do that. I'm sorry, I'm aware of it. I can't help myself. So I do try. But anyway, that's it. I didn't really want to quit, but the weather has changed. It is fall, and there's really nothing else to do. As you can see, there are no flowers. There are flowers. There's pretty much always flowers all year round. But there's no flowers. There's no nectar. It's the dearth. It rained briefly, a little bit of shower, misty type stuff on Friday, and that was nice. But yeah, the rain's coming. Seasons changed. There's nothing to do. There's no point in opening them anymore now that I know that all 5 have a queen. So anyway, yeah, for real this time. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking with me throughout the year. Thanks to you, future self, for going back and actually watching these videos and taking notes. Don't forget, don't be lazy. And we will see you probably either around Christmas time or around the first of the year and do a quick update, see where things stand. So until then, stay safe, take care. Until next time, bye.